Tonight, we meet a podcaster turned screenwriter. His gut-busting screenplay, Yelling at Dune, releases in a theater this Friday. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in introducing a longtime friend of the show, Druzy Alexander. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
Doing okay?
Yeah. That's the official answer. That's the final answer.
I guess the first question, we don't really, have to keep this in. Kind of might align with that. Do you have $5? Do you have $5?
Yeah, do you need money? I have $5. I don't have cash. If you're asking for cash, if you're asking for cash,
I actually just downloaded a Cash App last night.
Fuck me.
So
awesome. What's your Cash App?
So as is tradition around here, we took requests to see how you wanted the set decorated, and obviously this is what you went with. But I was curious as to why you specifically went with your grandmother's dining room. Is there any kind of nostalgic reason behind that or anything?
I actually hated her.
Really? Are these her cats?
No. These are some cats. These are actually all from Google Images. I sent them to you, and I lied to you about who they were.
Okay. Well, we did frame them and put them in what you told us was ascending order. So I wasn't sure.
Oh, no, you've done everything correct. I've just been manipulating you.
Cool. Why?
My therapist says it's because I have a complicated relationship with the idea of power and influence.
Okay. So we brought you on to promote your new movie, Yelling at Dune. Do you want to give us a brief synopsis?
Speaking of power and influence, well, of what? The project or the book?
What you're making.
What I'm doing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I was going to be a little bit insulted if you just wanted me to recount Frank Herbert's Dune.
No, I saw the Timothée Chalamet movie.
That's the same thing.
Yeah.
They're just as good as each other.
Yeah. So what are you working on?
Yelling at Dune is a deconstruction of essentially the idea of making adaptations. I feel like right now we as a culture are really into adaptation and obsessed with adaptation. And also there's a popular idea in the public zeitgeist that we have this, there is a final form for media, right? Like Dune isn't good enough as a book. It has to become a movie. It's been made a movie twice. It was almost made a movie once that was going to be the good one. But that never happened, of course. And, these comic book heroes and these book characters, they're literary characters, they're seen as, it's like, yeah, you could wait for the movie, or if you really have to, you can read the book.
Okay.
The book is an inconvenience, whereas the movie is like the final form for media, which I feel like I already said. But basically, it's Yelling at Dune is about that.
Okay.
And how, in needing these stories, specifically something like Dune, to be something else, something other than it already is sort of a detraction from the original piece, right? Okay. Like making a sequel.
Yeah, it's
you've kind of nullified the original.
Yeah, it's kind of dancing on the grave of it, if you will.
A little bit, especially because everybody involved in the work of Dune is dead, except for I think Frank's brother.
Okay.
And working with him was great.
And I was curious if you think that fans of the original source material would be fans of this movie, or if you think they'd be more drawn to something like the new movie or the David Lynch one from the 70s.
I watched a fan edit, actually. Part of what inspired me to make this is I watched a fan edit of the original Dune on youtube.com, which is technically intellectual property theft. If you're not already doing intellectual property theft, I think you should get into it.
That's a hot take.
Yeah.
And
it's also correct.
Okay.
But basically, I watched this and I expected, because in my history of fan edits, I usually like them, even if I don't agree with what they're going for or what they're doing, right? But somehow the fan edit of David Lynch's Dune was worse than David Lynch's Dune. Yes, which is an accomplishment. I don't know if you've seen Lynch's Dune.
I've seen half of it.
Seen half of it. That's about what it's worth.
Yeah.
Did you watch half of it in preparation for the Chalamet movie? Because that's also half of the book.
We were a little more on a David Lynch kick in my house.
Oh, okay. I don't even think it's very Lynchian, is it?
No, it's definitely kind of separate.
He almost had his name taken off the project.
Yeah, he went with the what's the name that some
Alan
artists?
Smithy.
Yeah, he went with Alan Smithy, which is common for the author of Watchmen to do in modern adaptations of the comic.
Really?
Yeah. And his name is Alan Moore, so it
that's
doesn't
a good
hurt.
move.
Yeah, he just changed his last name. But we had just watched Blue Velvet, and we were like, I wonder if this Dune movie's any good. You know, the new one's coming out, and I've heard it's bad, so let's check it out. And we didn't get it, and we turned it off.
Yeah. It's impossible. You can't get it like that.
There's too much exposition. I feel like if I had read the book, I'd understand, but I haven't.
Well, yeah, because the book is 600 fucking pages, plus the appendices.
Yeah.
And so, like, you can't. Why would you do that? Why would you make that into a 2-hour movie?
Yeah, you don't.
And also kind of sell it as like, finally.
Yeah, it's a massive undertaking.
Finally, Dune.
Something that could not live up to what it was before.
Yeah.
I do think I need to make it a little clear just as we're going on through the interviews. I was admittedly under the impression that this was going to be a comedy movie. And so I just kind of want you to take that into consideration with future questions. But with that being said, there is comedy within it.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic. The way you had pitched it, I was worried.
Well, I think all great comedy is about serious shit.
Okay.
You know? Have you seen Jojo Rabbit?
I have. It's a great movie. Great film.
It's about World War II.
It is.
It's not funny at all.
That's a very serious. So yeah,
it's not even kind of funny. You ever seen Star Wars?
Mm-mm.
It's the funniest movie ever.
No, I have. I love Star Wars.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you should see this movie.
You were once quoted as saying that Jerry Seinfeld invented comedy. Do you still hold these beliefs to be true?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I don't think there's anything funnier than dating a 16-year-old girl.
Okay. And I just want to make sure, just so you know, just make sure you include the question in the answer. When I ask you a question, make sure you include the question in the answer.
What is this, Jeopardy?
It helps so if I were to ask, do you still hold these beliefs to be true? Just say, oh yes, I definitely do think that Jerry Seinfeld is the funniest.
I feel like you're looking for a clip.
Okay.
I feel like you're trying to clip me.
That's what the producers want. That's kind of structured around.
Yeah, the thing, dude, here's the deal. Okay, so like, I know what you're like doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Like, I know what you're doing.
I
see what you're doing.
This wasn't a decision that was made on my behalf. That was actually something NBC requested that we do. So after a handful of leaked photos came out, some on the internet have actually described your version of Paul Atreides as a quote-unquote hard fuckster.
Uh-huh.
Do you agree? And just so you know, I was fucking with you about including the question and the answer. This isn't a behind the scenes of a movie, and you're just kind of being a prick. But do you think that Paul Atreides is a hard fuckster?
No, and this is the problem, right? You asked me about Dune fans earlier.
Uh-huh.
Dune fans think Dune is about what it isn't. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, Dune is about...
But I think you know what you mean.
How fucked up everything is. Dune is about how if you took a fucking caveman from our same world as we live in now, and you took him here, it would be incomprehensible and he'd kill himself. He'd understand what a gun... He'd learn what a gun was, figure out how it worked, and blow his brains out.
He'd seek out a way to do it.
Because this shit is fucked. Right? And, you know, when you read Dune or when you watch Dune, and like you watched the Lynch Dune, and you're like, I don't get this. And that's part of the point, in my opinion. So, as speaking as someone who has read the book, and then the book doesn't make an effort for you to get it. The book is deliberately confounding to a modern audience, right? And it's to make you feel like a foreigner in this world. Because I mean, you would be, right? If you had just come back in time from 2 years ago, this would be a foreign land.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, and Dune, these characters use a different calendar than we do. They don't have the same months or days or years, and certainly they don't have the same rules or laws or clothes or anything like that. The fact that the movies thus far, aside from mine, obviously, are recognizable to us, that the society in which they live makes a modicum of sense to us, is a failure.
Okay. And
a lot of the Dune fans, they are stupid and they're losers and they suck and they don't fuck hard, right? And when you don't fuck hard, you seek out characters who fuck hard.
So you're intentionally not making your version of Paul Atreides a hard fuckster.
Exactly. He's not a hard fuckster. I mean, have you read the book? I mean, you haven't, but
I haven't.
Rhetorically, you know, you read the book, he's a fucking weirdo. Right. People are uncomfortable around him.
I kind of gathered that when they cast Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a little fucking freak. But then, again, right, at the same time, they're kind of trying to have their cake and eat it too, right? They direct Paul Atreides, they direct Timmy to be weird and bizarre, but they don't lean into it nearly as much as the book does. And I mean, I get that you can't have his inner monologue in the book. I mean, in the movie, but like, they were like, who do teenage girls want to fuck really bad? And they cast him as Paul Atreides, who's 15.
Right. So it is my understanding, though, that you do play Paul Atreides in this screenplay that you were releasing. Was it a conscious decision, if you wanted to try to create someone who was not a hard fuckster, for it to be you? Do you kind of see yourself in that way?
Well, I relate to the character quite a bit. It's also a big part of the inspiration of making the project in general, right? And I mean, I think on my best days I fuck hard. On all of our best days we fuck hard, right? But like, there's so much of our media is dedicating to creating these characters who fuck harder than anyone's ever fucked before. You know, it's all about Han Solo and Chewbacca and how hard they fuck everybody. It's, you know, Darth Vader. The way people talk about Darth Vader.
Yeah, and Darth Vader fucks.
Darth Vader fucks hard. He does.
Yeah, he had kids about it.
But the point, he fucked Natalie Portman.
Yeah,
that's not fair.
No,
that doesn't make any sense. He's a robot. He's a robot samurai.
Not when he fucked Natalie Portman.
Her standard should be higher than that. Well, that's true, but it's just like they only see that part of the character, and they only see that part of the character in Paul Atreides. This young man who is gifted with great influence and wants to take over the Arrakeen and take over the Arrakis and take over eventually, you know, the galaxy. He who controls the spice controls the universe, right? But that is a failure on his part. That is wrong of him, you know. And just like when people cheer when our main hero in our main action movie that we like this week goes and he kills the antagonist, and the antagonist begs him not to do it, and he kills him anyway, right? And people cheer; they're glad about this. And it's like, it's bad to do that. And people project that idea in Paul Atreides, and it's not really their fault, right? They've been misled. They've been raised in like the universe where killing is really cool and violence is really fun. But like, and in that way, if you see Paul Atreides through that lens, of course he fucks hard, right? But like, he really doesn't. It would fuck harder if he just like chilled out.
So you think that as far as like big live action blockbusters go, we should be looking more for the incel within our big masculine characters?
Absolutely. I think they all have an incel in them.
You think there's an incel inside of Captain America?
Have you seen him?
But do you think it's still there? I mean, do you think that's something we should continue to focus on? Such an incel. He actually says the shit word.
He does say the shit word at one point, but at another point he reprimands them on things like that.
You're right.
I mean, the great strength of Captain America character, when you get back into the origins of him, right?
I don't really want to talk about Captain America.
Okay, but if you just give me a second here. Basically,
absolutely.
The comic books are actually an excellent example, and Dune has been made into a comic book before, and it's also very bad. All the adaptations of Dune are very bad because they all focus on the wrong thing. And I think that, I mean, I mentioned our superhero adaptation problem we have in the modern world. The aspects of these characters that have been honed in on are the parts that fuck hard, because that's what you can sell to people who buy.
You can't sell incel to the public.
You can't. People hate those guys. But if you sneak it in, right? And I mean, we're talking about, in the instance of Captain America, a character who, before America is even involved in World War II, is going over there and punching Nazis. And this is written by a Jewish incel. This is written by Jack Kirby and illustrated by Jack Kirby and Schuster. No, I don't think it was Schuster. Schuster did Superman. There's a gap in my knowledge when it comes to Depression era comic books. But like, the great thing about Captain America is that if only this guy who doesn't want to fuck hard had the ability to fuck hard. Right? If only this weak person with great morality could become a strong person with great morality. And, you know, it's sort of an analyzation of the shame of the power dynamics in which that exists within our society. Sorry, because it's like, oh, if only I was a billionaire, then I'd be Batman instead of a shithead, right? If only I was big and fucking strong instead of weak and shriveled and lame, then I would be Captain America, right? And then like Paul Atreides is sort of the same idea. And I mean, all of our give us the same idea because we're all stealing from Joseph Campbell.
I like that insight. I'm glad to know a little bit more, especially going into the movie because I haven't been pre-screened for it yet.
You haven't seen it?
Well, no.
Has any?
It's. I did say in my intro it is only being released in one theater.
Yeah, but you're here.
Right. I was just kind of briefed as, to what.
What did they tell you?
That there was a little funny guy coming, and he is making a Funny Dune movie.
They told you it was a little funny guy.
Just the producers.
Who are these guys?
Okay. You once called Will Ferrell the father of all comedy. I disagree.
Tell me about that. Tell me about that.
I just think comedy's been around a lot longer than Will Ferrell has.
Yeah, but have you ever seen any pre-Will Ferrell comedy?
Airplane.
Airplane sucks.
But it's comedy.
If it sucks, is it really comedy? If it doesn't make you laugh, is it really comedy?
It makes me laugh.
I would categorize everything pre-Will Ferrell as tragedy.
Okay.
I mean, there's nothing sadder than watching someone try and fail to make a joke.
Well, Jerry Seinfeld, who you also have drawn a lot of inspiration from, is pre-Will Ferrell.
Yes, but you have to take into account that Will Ferrell was, he was born.
Right.
I mean, I don't think Jerry's funny until the date after Ferrell was born.
Okay, so it just his existence. Mm-hmm. Okay, I get that.
He's kind of like a messianic figure.
Okay. So we know you've kind of had a roller coaster of a career up to this point.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I personally think that they kind of undersold you and they told you or called you a silly little guy, just being the person who comes in. You did initially make a name for yourself in the YouTube and Twitter tube spaces with your podcast. And after the Hear Me Out podcast tragically ended with the death of your co-host, you kind of laid low for a while.
Yeah.
Until your very highly publicized affair with Meryl Streep. TMZ had reported that she was parading around with a little biracial boy, and
I wasn't little at the time.
Okay, not my words.
Oh yeah, I know.
You just wanted to kind of put that out.
I feel like I've been misdirecting my anger at you. I talked to my therapist about this a little bit, but basically, yeah, me and Streep had like a thing.
So the two of you are not still together?
Oh, most certainly not.
Okay.
I don't know how much I'm at liberty to say, but like, I'm just not going to touch it.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm not upset about it.
Okay, I'm glad.
I'm fine.
I wouldn't want to actually.
I'm fine.
Okay. You recently tweeted that Kate McKinnon is the funniest man alive.
Mm-hmm.
Do you draw a lot of? You recently tweeted that Kate McKinnon was the funniest man alive. Do you draw a lot of inspiration from him?
Absolutely. Have you seen Ghostbusters 2017?
I haven't. I wasn't into a lot of movie watching at the time. I thought that was kind of a dry summer for me. Would you recommend it?
Tell me about that.
It was coming out around the same time that Doctor Strange did, and there were a lot of big blockbusters that summer. And it wasn't really for me. I just kind of stayed home.
Well, let me tell you, he is the only good actor in that film.
Okay.
The only good actor in that film. Completely carries it. I had a bunch of people tell me I was wrong about something in the tweet. I don't really Google things. Mm-hmm. It's not really me.
I think it's typically better just because there are trolls and there are people who prey on your downfall. And I do think that it is often wise to have a good relationship with your fan base, but especially over the internet, keyboard warriors and all that it's oftentimes better to not engage with them whatsoever. But to kind of end this interview, I just want to bring us down to earth a little bit. As far as people who want to do what you do, do you hope to be as much of an inspiration to those people as your idols were to you?
Well, you see, I have a complicated relationship with my idols, really. Because
They say to never meet them.
That's what they say, right? And let's dissect that a little bit, actually. I think that would really help. Why not? Why shouldn't you meet them? Mm-hmm. Why shouldn't you go and fuck Jerry Seinfeld and shake hands with Daisy Ridley.
Right.
You know?
I think that a lot of it, comes down to they're not the person you think they are.
Exactly. Right. And I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. But for me, as I got older and as I got more serious about what I created, my rivals stopped being aspirational and started being, did I say rivals?
Mm-hmm.
They started being my rivals. I would see their success and I would be inflamed with jealousy.
Really?
And they would become adversarial relationships for me. And I don't think that it was a problem. Mm-hmm. I think they're relationships that I'm perfectly fine with having. There's sort of parasocial rivalry.
That's what that was the word I was going to use, was parasocial. Mm-hmm. So even though you had never met them, just knowing that you drew so much from them, but seeing how well they were doing and how you were out there trying to do the same thing and just weren't on the level that they were, that was kind of turned to bitterness for you?
Well, it's a little bit bitter, yeah, mm-hmm. But it's bitter like coffee, where it's like,
explain that.
That's what I'm going for a little bit. This need to one up the people who I know have inspired me and I know are ahead of me. Mm-hmm. For me, it might not be healthy, I don't know, but for me is something that I use to keep me going. Right. One day I will one up Ramon Villalobos and Jerry Seinfeld and Will Ferrell and Frank Herbert and George Lucas and Jesus Christ and John.
And that's what you want to do. Mm-hmm. Do you think that you could feasibly achieve that at some point in your life?
I mean, if they could achieve what they achieved, why couldn't I?
You're right. Well, there you have it, folks. This is Druzy Alexander. This has been an evening with him, and I've had a wonderful time. Thank you for coming on tonight. Is there anything else that you want to say? Anyone watching or anything like that? Anything you want to plug? Hey, what happened to us, man?
I think it was the thing with my mom. It's just like...
Well, you've apologized for it. And I've forgiven you. But I feel like you won't let yourself pass what happened.
It's mostly... I don't know. I have a high standard for myself, And whenever I don't meet it, I find it unacceptable.
Well, I'm glad you came tonight.
I haven't come yet.
That's it. Cut.